Now, these two terms are actually different. They have a different purpose. Even in this book, they are trying to use the two terms as one. Uh, in some, to some extent, it is okay to consider them as one, but I'll explain about resume. What is a resume? What is a curriculum vitae? Uh, or we call it as a CV in short terms, right? There is a difference between the two. Before that, now this section, mostly in your past paper, how it would come is like, now what we are going to learn is also going to help you. But again, in terms of the examination paper, you may get a scenario. For example, you may get a advertisement of a job, or maybe there will be a description about a person's skills or things like that. And you may be asked to prepare a CV for that person. So in that case, or prepare a resume for that person, then you have to know what you need to do to organize a resume, right? So that is the whole objective of why we are learning here. So first of all, difference between a resume and a curriculum vitae. Now, a resume is something you target for a particular job vacancy. Let's say it is about some area, like let's say a sales accountant, right, or sales assistant. I don't know. If it is that, you write your information in a way with the skills. You focus more about the skills that you can support to that job vacancy. So if you want to be a sales assistant, what are the skills you have? So resume, then it will have your name, contact number, everything, that basic stuff is there. But again, you focus more on the skills that you have, and maybe one or two brief experiences, past experiences on them, and your educational qualifications, etc. So looking at the resume, so it will be just 1 or 2 page length only. So very short one. Unlike a resume, a CV is a very detailed document where every employment history, regardless of your skill set, you may have multiple skill sets. So all those information will be included in a CV. So it's like CV is like your historical record about yourself, about your skills and all your past experiences and all. So generally, when a person is going to apply for the job for the first time, more likely he will be preparing for a resume. And maybe even if you are going to change your career, you will still sometimes target writing a resume with some information about your past experience. Maybe you have to mention the dates, like the period you have worked in the previous companies and all. But some places you may need to send your CV, because some people want to see your, especially if you are a very senior person, right? You may have gained a lot of experience. So resume may not suit there. You may have to forward a CV in that case with the detailed information. Now, it's not only about the vacancies, the jobs you have worked. Under each job, what kind of work were you undertaking? What was your responsibility? What were the tools or technologies you were working with? This is what includes in a CV. So I hope that makes the distinction clear. I'll just show you. If you just search the internet, there are a lot of articles that show you the difference between um, both these documents. Now here is a site I visit, theundercoverrecruiter.com. Here they give you the difference in a very nice way. As I mentioned, I hope you can read it. As stated, 3 major differences between, okay, before that let me go to the top. Okay, CV, which means course of life in Latin is an in-depth document that can be laid out over 2 or more pages, and it contains high level of detail about your achievements, great deal more than just a career biography. So the CV covers your education as well as any other accomplishments like awards, things like that you have received over your time. So it is not necessarily for a particular field. So another thing is the document tends to be organized chronologically and should make it easy to get an overview of an individual's full working career. What do you mean by chronological? Anybody knows the term chronological? Anybody? So chronological means the order, like for example the years you have worked. So first maybe let's say 2005, 2010, 2012, different places you might have worked in a chronological order in your career. So that information needs to be mentioned there. But same thing when you go to a resume or resume, what we do is we will also mention about our work experience, but not in the chronological order. It will be in the reverse chronological. That means like the most recent work experience will be placed at the top, especially in a resume. Like the most recent, because the whole idea behind the resume is to quickly grab the attention of the employer. So resume or resume is a concise document, typically not longer than 1 page, as the intended reader will not dwell on your document for a very long. The goal of a resume is to make an individual stand out from the competition. So keep in mind, resume is going to be very short and you want to quickly grab the attention. So you put your basic details, you put your skill set, then you put your experience in the reverse chronological order. So the job seeker should adapt the resume to every position they apply. It is the applicant's interest to change the resume from one job application to another and then customize it. A resume doesn't have to be ordered chronologically, it doesn't have to cover your whole career, and it is a highly customizable document. So the major differences to understand between the two is the length and purpose and the layout. Length, purpose, and the layout. A resume is a brief summary of your skills and experience over 1 or 2 pages. CV is a more detailed and can stretch well beyond 2 pages. A resume will be tailored to each position, whereas the CV will stay put and any changes will be in the cover letter. That means what they're telling is when you're writing a resume, it is for that particular position you're targeting. Maybe one resume may not suit to another job role. You have to maybe twist it a bit and do, but it will be short. But in a CV, you have everything. Any specific information about a particular job you're applying to, you can mention those things in the cover letter. That's why we have this cover letter as an important part. Today, people who are applying for jobs, they don't, very rarely they send a cover letter, but we do that in the email now. Whatever we type in the cover letter is now, whatever we were writing in the cover letter is now typed into the email. So when you are sending a CV, you will have to, when you're sending a CV applying for a particular job position, you definitely have to write a cover letter, uh, marketing yourself and trying to identify how your experience is going to fit into that job role. Whereas when you're sending a resume, you may not need to send a very detailed cover letter as such. A person who is looking at the resume will quickly understand your skill set. So this has to be clear. And keep in mind, in my experience also, I will tell, like, a lot of people don't like to read detailed information, okay? Especially for very normal job roles, very beginner roles. There are interviewers or employers, they don't like to read, lengthy documents unless they are taking a person into a very senior position. They expect a CV. Apart from that, if you have a good resume, that should be fine. Okay, so to summarize that two difference there, CV is long, covers your entire character, and it is static. So the nature is it's like fixed. Resume is customizable. It is short. There is no particular format rule, especially when it comes to the. But what I would say is, why it's saying no particular format is when you are going to list out your experience, try to put the latest experience on the top. So in this backdrop, there in this document as well as the other document, they are mentioning some techniques of how to prepare writing a resume. Basically, there are some techniques. Even let's say if you don't have experience, or maybe if you have experience, but let's say you might have done a job role for the first year. The second year onwards, you didn't do any job. You are at home. Then maybe after the third year onwards, you have started working. So now there will be a question: what did you do in the middle? I mean, anybody can easily figure it out that something has gone wrong in the middle. 1 year gap is there. So if you want to hide certain questions like that being asked from the interviewer, so there are different types of resume formats we can come up with. So we have functional resumes, or we have chronological resumes. So when you are going for a chronological resume format, this question could come: what did you do between this period? Obviously, it will be eye-catching. But if you focus on, because when you put a chronological resume, you have to mention the periods as I told, like from which month to which month, which year to which year. So the questions will be there. But again, if you write your resume in a functional way, it will be more targeted towards only the skills or what you are doing there, instead of the time period. Okay, that way maybe you can avoid whatever things you have not worked, if there are any gaps like that. Those questions will be not asked about, right? So let's briefly go through this very quickly, very small chapter here. So at the end of the lesson, the student should be able to collect information for the resume. How you collect information? Identify the difference between an application and resume. Prepare the covering letter. So this covering letter thing, we'll do it in the next one. So application forms. Now this is unlike a CV or a resume. Now you have this application forms mostly in almost all the organizations you are going to subscribe to. Be it a website, be it some government department, they will provide you some sort of application form. So for positions in the government service and in the corporation service, vacancies are published in the Gazette with a specimen application form. The job seekers are requested to fill in an application prepared using the specimen. The importance of this is that it helps the institution or the department to shortlist the application because the information is in the same format for each person. So they will have a standard structure and you have to fill some details, and that is not actually an indicator of whether you are whether it is your true information or not. The reason why they ask you to fill that in certain job vacancies is for the same reason, to shortlist, because a lot of people will be applying, so they need to see some parameters on the application, maybe the experience, your educational qualification. They will look at those things and filter out the applications, right? That would be the reason for that. So here is a quick example of what could happen. A notice calling for application for the post of assistant manager. Accounts specifies the assistant manager for the accounts department specifies the age limit, that is not less than 30 years and not more than 35 years. So it should be between these two. So in the application form, there is a special cage for age. Candidate A has filled it stating 23, another person 26, another person 28. So which is the application that is not rejected? In this case, which do you think is rejected or not rejected? All of them will be rejected, right? Because it is not in this age group. Okay. So that you have to keep in mind. The same procedure is applied to all the requirements, and the employee is able to select only the applications that conforms to the stipulated requirements. Okay. So when you're filling an application form, generally they ask certain important details, especially when they're asking your name. There will be various ways they ask your name, either in full name, block letters, or they will ask you with name with initials, or they will ask you surname. What is a surname? Anybody knows what is a surname? So let's say, I think mostly you guys have surnames, unlike the Muslim folks. So Jennifer, you can mention what is your surname. I know Jennifer is your first name. What is your surname? Fernando, exactly. Other person, Vidyani? What would be your surname?
Lakshman.
Lakshman. Okay. So to properly understand what your surname is, mostly the name that is associated with your family. Right now, everybody doesn't have that format. So like Juan Fernando, Pereira, let's say, now some people have this, even in some Muslim families we have that name, the Begum, right? Those kind of common thing that comes to every person in the family, that is called surname. Right? It's mostly associated with the family name. Or they will ask you names denoted by initials, or the given names. Now there might be another special cage area where they ask whether you are called with different names like nicknames or anything else. Your given name, because why they tell you sometimes you'll be called by one name, you'll actual name in the certificate might be a different thing. So that is why they ask that. So mostly in the government application forms, you may have a field for that. So activities given here, like how do you put this into these 5 formats. So I skip that part. So additional information in an application form requested is address, telephone, age, date of birth, nationality, NIC number, education, professional qualification, experience, names of referees. Names of referees means people who could recommend you. Not only the names, you have to also provide their contact details and their experience. And experience in the sense their position, where they are working, right? That is very important, especially when you are mentioning referees. It should be, most cases, it should be the non-related referees. Any job applications, they will, most of the job vacancies, they post that when you send your CV with 2 non-related referees. Why do you think? Why do you think they ask for that? Non-related referees. I mean, straightforward. Why do they say non-related referees? So if they are referees are related, what happens? let's say you're applying for a job and you have a referee information which is your father or it is your uncle. Will that work out? Your uncle or father will anyway tell good about you, right? When somebody is asking questions. So why we have non-related referees? A third-party person should recommend you. I mean, a person should know about you who is not from your relations. So some companies, before calling a CV, before calling you for an interview, they will do a background check calling for one of the numbers in the referee list, and they will verify whether you are a genuine person, because sometimes what happens is people just put the names of big people in their referees just to show that they have a good relationship with maybe a senior lecturer or maybe the dean of a university or maybe somebody in the top departments, top companies. They just put their names, but sometimes those people don't know who these people are. So the purpose of having unrelated referees is to uh, yes, definitely they ask from them. I myself have been asked by others, like some of my students or juniors, they have mentioned my name. Uh, Basically, they ask, first of all, they ask from me whether they could put my name in their referee list. And I have received calls, random calls. Now, especially the last time I remember, a person who was working with me in my previous company, he migrated to Singapore. So now, actually, uh, I was the general manager at that time for the team. So he was a tech lead. So he wanted a reference. I gave my name and things. And after he went to Singapore, he has applied to many places, putting my name. And one case, I received a call from Singapore asking whether you know this person, can you describe about him, uh, how is his character, lot of questions, tough questions. So I had to give my honest answers. In certain cases, I had to be a little bit flexible, but that thing is happening. That's why they ask that, because sometimes if they feel very doubtful about you, they will first check with the referees. So that is why that is very important to have a non-related referee who is already familiar with you, who knows about you. So don't just, even if you're going to advise to others, tell this advice not to just put anybody's name there, but a name of a reputed person who is known to you. Again, another point under referees is don't put non-related. When I say non-related referees for one thing, the another meaning is uh, now let's say you are going to apply for a some commerce oriented or business oriented, let's say business consultancy or some kind of business oriented job vacancy. So for that, don't put a uh, non-related referee of your school principal or teacher. That's not going to work. You have to put somebody who is in that industry. Mostly, I have seen CVs, they make this mistake because how can a teacher know about his work experience? How can another person know about that particular skills in that area? So the referee referee should be a person who is somewhat related to the job position or vacancy you are working in. That's why you have to keep on updating your resume. You get the point. So keep that in mind. So school principal things and those things maybe within your uh, within your town limit. If you're expecting a normal job, that is fine. But when you're going to big companies, they will look for industry experts. So you have to have good relationships. So again, you might ask, how can I get a referral like that? So that is why you have these different networking sessions. You have to attend meetings, free seminars. When you go to these places where these industry events are happening, you will get in touch with many people, lot of people. Sometimes you can even get their business cards, or you can develop with them. You can develop a relationship with them. That's how you get a referral. Right? Again, maybe at your workplace, you may have your CEO, people who already know about you. So that should be fine. So keep that in mind when you're going to include names of referees, even for your future career. So I don't know. At this moment, if you have a principal's name or your teacher's name or somebody like that, please remove that. Try to put somebody who is in the industry. So this is not to undermine the other people. I hope you get the point, how important it is. Right. And finally, declaration is something about saying that the above information is true, and there is a particular format for that. Like a lot of people write a declaration statement. I certify that the above information is true to my knowledge, and like that. And then finally, you sign, and you have to include the date when you have prepared. Why date is important is so it will show how current your resume is. Okay, so when you're applying for a position, there will be a closing date for the applications, and it is a must that your application be submitted on or before that date. So especially the resume you're preparing, make sure this date is little older than the closing date. Right? That is one thing. Right. Some important points to consider when you're filling an application. Neatness. Otherwise, a busy employer may not go through it. It may end up in the garbage bin. Keep a copy of your application form. This will be useful when you go to the interview to check what you have mentioned in your application. So, because sometimes when you ask cross questions, you can have a look at your application form and verify, this is what I mentioned, like that. Fill all the columns in the application. If you do not have to fill any spaces, just mark them as not applicable. This is important since the person who reads the application will not be prejudiced that you have not overlooked any questions, because there might be some places where you can't answer or you don't have an answer for that. If you leave them blank, it will give a wrong impression for the employer that you haven't read those things. So to avoid that, maybe you can just put this in it, because this is also another mistake people do when they're applying. Especially, even sometimes I have noticed this university forms, some people fill some information, they just leave it blank. It doesn't mean that they haven't read that, they have read that, but sometimes it gives a wrong impression when somebody is reviewing the application. Finally, proofread your application at least twice. Ensure that you have signed it. Okay. So here is a typical situation. They are asking a real scenario. How will you behave? For example, you have forgotten to keep a copy of your application form. You receive a letter calling you for an interview. So explain your response to the situation. Imagine how will you react. You have applied somewhere and now you have received a letter, or let's say this old type, you receive a call. And you don't have a copy of your application form. The only copy you had, you have sent it, and maybe from your computer you have deleted it. So how will you handle this situation? It's a question. So I leave that for your thought, how you will handle that. Because different people have different ways to handle the situation. Right. The resume or curriculum vitae. Okay. So here they are mentioning this as one document, but the focus is more on resume. Okay. A resume or a curriculum vitae is a document that you can post to any employee irrespective of the post or place. A covering letter must accompany. So here The actual scenario of covering letter is because if it's a CV, you need a covering letter. Keep that in mind. But nowadays, what people do is even for a resume, you type a covering letter. So it is also useful to be taken with you when you appear for a walk-in interview or respond by phone or email to vacancies. The resume is an important summary of facts by which you can sell your qualifications and experience to a prospective employer. So it will have personal details at the beginning, uh, then other stuff like your personal achievements, educational qualifications. So here from the highest or the latest to the lowest or the first in chronological order. Examinations passed with subjects, grades, schools attended in a chronological order. Right? So like that you can mention. Then you will have your professional qualifications. So the structure is given. Right? First of all, very basic details. Then your personal profile means mainly you will give a statement kind of thing. I am an accomplished uh, accountant expert or accounts expert specializing in this field of study, something like that. You'll give a kind of a statement there. That is under personal profile, education, qualification, professional. Then you will come to work experience. Work experience will have to be given in somewhat these two, these these three information should be there. Which place you worked, what was the period, and what was the responsibilities you took. Very quickly, everybody who is, you will have this thing repeating for every work experience. So you will be putting a topic called work experience, then you will mention the place maybe with a number, and the number one place, period, number two place, period, responsibilities, something like that. Finally, additional stuff like your hobbies, interests, and I don't know what skills profile. Yeah, skills in the sense your skills. There will be certain skills like writing, reading, organizing, managing, decision making, problem solving. Like that, you may have certain things that about yourself. You'll have to list down. Then finally, the reference list. Okay, let me keep the covering letter for a while. Quickly jump into this area. So when you're planning your resume, let me zoom this. Right. So when you're planning a resume, certain things you need to take into consideration. Analyze your purpose and audience. Audience in the sense who you are targeting, which employer. So your resume must be more than a simple list of jobs you have held. It is a form of advertising intended to stimulate an employee's interest in. Investigate pertinent information. Right? Try to gather every information about yourself, your personal history, and then try to get the important stuff out of it. You may have 1,000 skills, who knows? But all those 1,000 skills, you can't put it into a resume. You have to put only the relevant ones, maybe the places you have worked, things like that, and make sure if you put which one, more likely you will get the job. So that kind of thing you need to investigate. Then adapt your resume to your audience. Then you try to customize it basically. So your resume must make an impression quickly. Focus on your audience. Ask yourself what key qualifications this employer will be looking for. Decide which qualifications are your great strengths. Choose 3 or 4 of your most relevant accomplishments and what resulted from these accomplishments. So as you see, today's world, I have seen people, young people, what they do is for preparing a CV, what they do is they go and get a copy of another person's one and then start customizing it. Right? Uh, what is the problem that happens is they haven't analyzed themselves. Doing so, because you are trying to write a CV out of another person's format, that is not going to work. So you have to do a genuine work. Genuinely, you have to analyze yourself, get a set of your, maybe you can refer that as a format, but you can't use the exact same words and stuff like that that is in that other CV. This is a problem I have seen in most CV, when other employees point it out. Uh, People do a copy paste kind of thing. So while copy and pasting, there is another problem that happens, which some people don't realize is the referees list. So sometimes they will have forgotten to replace the referees, and then Vedamatu, right? And somebody tries and goes and asks questions. Maybe somebody who is unrelated, or maybe if the employer has already seen the CV with the same referees, they will quickly realize this is a wrong CV. I mean, there is a copy paste work that has happened. So you have to be very careful. So these steps need to be taken personally. Look at the job vacancy, list out your skills and see which skills are relevant, and then customize your resume, keeping the employer in mind. If the employer wants to get interest, what are the things I have to put into the CV, into the resume? Right. So don't exaggerate. That is important. That means don't explain too much about yourself. That is going to give a wrong impression. So be simple and concise. Don't alter the past or claim skills you don't have. So some people try to add certain things just to get the job. So that is dishonesty. You're cheating yourself, right? So do whatever you have, genuinely apply if you get the vacancy. Because what people do is, interviewers, they will look at your skills, and smart employers will understand whether you have put a genuine thing, and then maybe even though some of the technology or skills that you have mentioned is not part of the job vacancy, they will judge and get an idea. Sometimes you may be a fit because you may be able to. Uh, that's why we discussed earlier transferable skills. So if you have skills on some area, it may suit into this. So don't write lies about you. Write about only the past skills you have experienced. So by knowing yourself in your audience, you will focus successfully on the strengths needed by the potential employees. So here are some steps for going through: analyze, investigate, adapt, organize, prepare. Finally, you have to always revise your resume. Revise, proofread it. Okay. Some quick facts here. Fallacies and facts. Now, fallacies means in the impression you have when you're writing a resume. Uh, Maybe you may be first trying to put the purpose of a resume is to list all your skills and abilities. This might be a thing in your mind, but actually the fact is the purpose of the resume is to trigger an employee's interest or kindle an employee's interest and generate an interview. You may have a wrong impression. A good resume will get you the job you want, but actually the fact is all a resume can do is get you into the door. That means it will maybe uh, take you to the interview. Succeeding in the interview is another thing, but if you have a good resume, it will somehow get your attention. Another wrong impression: resume will be read carefully, thoroughly. No, that is not going to happen in a busy world. So your resume probably has less than 45 seconds to make an impression. So how well you organize your first page is what matters. The first impression is the best impression. Right? There's no doubt about it. So if you have used the wrong fonts, some people have this colorful, dark background CVs and all. I have seen those. I mean, those are not going to be, even it looks like fancy. That's, people don't care about that much. People want to see what you have. So make it simple. Uh, Too much information resume may actually kill the reader's appetite. No more. Prepare your own resume. Don't give it to other people. even if you are getting the help of others, you still have to review. You have to review for yourself whether information is correct and set up. Because some people have this issue with how to organize. The most time I have seen people struggle is they have this fear. They have this fear of how to prepare a resume. So there is nothing wrong. First, you have to first identify if you have known about your skills, if you have figured out your skills and your experience. You just need to know what is the format. Start fill in the blanks. That's all. Okay. Another general guidelines is 7 qualities that employers seek when you're writing resume. Think in terms of results. Know how to get things done. Are well-rounded. That means everything is perfectly clearly mentioned. Show signs of progress. Have personal standards of excellence. So what is this show signs of progress means? Your resume when some person is reading it, they will see a nice flow of information. And also when you have this in reverse chronological order, they will see it in a nice way. Okay, you are a person who is working, or you have something. Have personal standards of excellence, flexible and willing to try new things. So this is something you have to mention in your interests. Right? I mean, these are some aspects they use. If you don't have this, that is another problem. But people try to see innovative people, right? So in somewhere in your interest area, if you can give a sentence that reflects this, that will be attractive. And also communication skills as part of your skill set. So as you organize and compose your resume, think about how you can convey those 7 qualities. If you don't mention, but I'm just mentioning about what people look into. Okay, so the type of resumes, as I explained earlier, one type is chronological resume, which is the work experience section dominates in your resume, and is placed immediately after the name and address and the objective. Objective is the things we discussed, that profile kind of thing, explaining about yourself. So this will the work experience will immediately come under the name and address section. So you list your jobs sequentially in reverse order, beginning with the most recent position and working backwards toward earlier jobs. Under each job listing, describe your responsibilities and accomplishments, giving the most space to the most recent positions. If you are just starting your career, so this is for people who have experience. Let's say if it's a new person, so if you're just starting your career, you can vary this chronological approach by putting your educational qualifications before your experience, thereby focusing attention on your training and academic credentials. So this is the technique. So there's nothing to get worried if you're preparing a CV. So if you are a less experienced person, you can take this approach. Let's say you have worked in 2-3 places, maybe you can take this approach, right? So I leave that to yourselves. You can decide in your respective careers. You can think about it. Or even in the exam paper, if you get a question, this technique you can follow when you're preparing the CV for that question. Okay. So the chronological approach is the most common way to organize a resume, and many employers prefer it. This approach has 3 key advantages. That is, employers are familiar with it and can easily find information. It highlights growth and career progression, and it highlights employment continuity and stability. The chronological approach is especially appropriate if you have strong employment history and are aiming for a job that builds on your current career path. Okay. So here we'll look at a quick difference between an ineffective and effective version of a same person's resume. The person is Larine Chan. So we'll look at a quick example where he has prepared a resume that is not appealing, and again after corrections what he has done. So let's look at that quickly. Okay, first one, the ineffective chronological resume. So he has put his name, address, stuff, that is okay. Now here, I have been staff accountant financial, so he is mentioning about something from March 2004 to present. I have negotiated with supplier. I speak both like that. He has mentioned I have like that. So here, first of all, the problem with this statement, the opening profiles, fails to combine accounting expertise with international experience in the minds of employees by stating it in an overall objective. So this is not the way you write an objective. Objective should be much more uh, wider. So if you are targeting international, so here he is mentioning only about his regional experience kind of thing. So that is one thing. Uses bulleted lists ineffectively. If you look at this, lacks parallelism, lacks logical organization, often highlights wrong information, uses the word I too often. This is not the way you have to do. This is wrong. Uses too many unnecessary words, such as I was responsible for. You don't like it, write it like. Fails to highlight important skills by breaking them out into a separate list. Right. So here he is actually writing his experience and what he has been doing, responsibilities, what he was doing, but the responsibility. But unnecessary words are there. Further includes too many words in educational information, lacks parallelism. Here, I have my Masters of Business Administration with. Right, so this is another problem. As I told, resume should be very short. People don't want to come and read articles here. It should be in point kind of format. Then again, if you look at some other things, so he has mentioned something in chronological order, but uh, hides that fact with awkward format, because the format is not good. It is in a sentence format. Again, this fails to draw readers' attention to important points, fails to provide the sort of specific information on duties and accomplishments that catches an employee's eye. That means it's not very quick to see what is his experience, what he has done there. Fails to use concise and active language consistently describe duties. Right? So overall, if you look at this CV, it is very uh, lengthy. Lengthy in the sense it's very difficult for somebody to quickly read and get information. Now, if you look at an effective organized one, here it is more focused. See, summary of qualifications. He has pointed out what he has been doing. And look at this nice arrangement at the top. He's put a nice, his name bolded out, and each topic given here, then subtopics of his vacancies, of the job roles he played, right? Easy to look at it, and he has avoided that I did, I was. Those things have been removed, right? So experience, then the education repeated in detail way, and additional interests. So it goes to the other page, and finally the referees or references, nicely organized, right? So that's how it should be. So this is one thing you have to understand. So look how they have written the experience also. Now, financial analyst, somebody will know he has worked Inter-Asian Imports, Vancouver, BC. So this clearly gives an idea what is the company. Instead of saying I worked at this place, this one line shows where he was working and the period. So the responsibilities in a nice way: preparing accounting reports for wholesale gift and auditing financial transactions, creating a computerized model to adjust account. So you may have your own responsibilities, what you did in your companies. You can start updating them. Okay. So I hope you have this book with you. You can refer to that as you need. So that was the chronological resume. Then you have the functional resume, as I mentioned. This emphasizes a list of skills and accomplishments, identifying employees and academic experience in subordinate sections. This pattern stresses individual areas of competence. So this is on page 314 or 313 onwards. Okay. Take a note of that as well. Page 313 onwards, this resume writing stuff is there. So functional resume is a way where we focus on the certain functional areas that you are expert in, instead of focusing on a general work experience, like you have worked in this company, you have worked here, you have worked in another company, this period to this period. Instead of that, we focus more on, I have worked with accountancy, I have worked with voluntary work, I have done this. So the functional areas, right? So this pattern stresses individual areas of competence. So it's useful for people who are just entering the job market, who want to redirect their careers, or who have little continuous career related experience. So this is how functional resume comes. So again, I would say, comparing this now, for new people, maybe most suitable thing is functional resume, the most suitable one, because they only have the skill set or whatever they have derived from schools or the university time period. They may have certain skills, so you can focus on a functional area. Or it might be helpful for people who don't have continuous experience. Now, there are some people who jump from one place to another place now. Like 6 months in one company, next 6 months they go to another place, then maybe another 3 months they don't have any work. Like that, some people have a tough career, tough career path. For those people also, if they still want to find a new job, they have to follow the functional resume format, focusing on the job area. Because if they follow the chronological one, for those kind of people who have short time periods working in one place, then it is going to give a bad impression for the employer. Because uh, people ask that question, why you are not in a stable place? It will give that is the impression it gives. That means you are not a person who is going to work for a long time. Generally, employers expect at least, if you are working in a company, at least minimum 1 year you should be in them. So if your CV is not describing that, then they will think, okay, this is the same thing you're going to do for our company. So be careful and be intelligent enough which kind of resume format you're going to focus on. So the functional approach has 3 advantages. Without having to read through the job descriptions, employers can see what you can do for them. Second, you can emphasize earlier job experience. Third thing, you can de-emphasize any lack of career progress or lengthy employment. So this thing mostly you can hide as a fact when you follow the functions. So if you haven't worked for a long time, if you don't have a lengthy employment, or if you have lengthy unemployment, the only the only exit strategy is using a functional resume where you focus on your areas that you have worked with. Okay, so the example for that is also given under 13.6. I'll leave that for your reference as well, so you can go through that quickly. So if you look at the basic things are same. So this person has given two addresses, home address and college. Maybe she's trying to go to another workplace. So the current workplace is also be mentioned. Relevant skills. See, directly she has mentioned the relevant skills, the different skill areas. And then under those skill areas, what are the experiences you have? Maybe then you mention them. By doing this, you don't follow the chronological thing. You're focusing on directly your functional areas you expect. Then the other stuff will come, education. And this may also help. If you don't need, you don't have to put this as well. You already, that is going to come under this. Unless you have certain work experience you need to highlight, you can mention them. Apart from that, you don't have to worry about it. And any other extra curricular stuff. So this is the most thing people do now, combination resume. So best features from both approaches are included. Nevertheless, it is not common use, and it has two major disadvantages. So because you can mix up, if something happens, it mix up. One is it can get too longer, and sometimes you may have repetitions. So it's better to stick to something one. In very rare cases, you can have a combined resume, but I would recommend to avoid it. So that format is also given here, how people have written a combined format. Employment history, references. Okay, so additional stuff are given here. When you are going to use action verbs in resumes, these are some of the words you have to use. Mostly you will likely use assumed, duties, budgeted, chaired means leaded, created, coordinated, initiated, this, that, like the kind of action verbs you can use in your resume. Okay, I will then wrap up the discussion today on resumes, and maybe in the next session we'll start discussing about how to write a covering letter and email. So just go through this section from page 313. Not 313, 314, I believe. 314, sorry. 314 onwards to 390. Yeah. 319 or 380. Take some time to read, get an idea. And I think there was one past paper question. I'm not giving you this activity at the moment. I just wanted to see whether there is a memo. Okay, this is about service letter. So we had to learn about cover letters. Post of accounts assistant at Rosewood Insurance. So ideal person we are looking, blah, 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 blah. See, you are required to prepare a CV with a cover letter to the above advertisement that appeared in the Sunday Times. So imagining you are this person who is going to suit for this category, how will you apply or how will you prepare a CV? Right? So the cover letter part we'll write later. Maybe at least at this point you should be able to first go through this. First go through these pages, get an idea about their CV, how they have written, whether it is a functional one. So you have to decide whether you are going to write a functional CV or you are going to write a chronological CV. Right? That is up to your choice. So either thing will be accepted in the paper. First decide whether you are functional one or the chronological one, and then try to match these things, your skill set and everything to this requirement, right? The information you're filling there. So if you can prepare something like that, then maybe we can, maybe I can review later. I don't expect this immediately, but at least you can start updating what you have at the moment, your existing information you might have applied somewhere else. Try to now align it with what we have discussed today, right? And then maybe prepare a CV that targets this question, and we'll see, we'll review that and see individually. Okay. and after that we'll learn about cover letters. Again, yeah. Okay, any questions you have to ask? Anything left?